to really hammer home the idea that these apps do not care about either how you feel as a user or how these social issues do in terms of how much attention they receive, I want to tell you about Facebook's emotional contagion study. So, in 2014, so that's like almost 10 years ago now, Facebook initiated an experiment using their app with almost 700,000 users, where they would try to see if the stuff that they showed on their platform could affect the way their users feel. Again, this is very important. Not a single one of these research participants were informed that this experiment was going on, and not a single one of them was asked for their consent before this experiment was initiated. So, yeah, again, they was essentially turned into guinea pigs without ever being told about it. So what Facebook would do is, for several days at a time, for these users, they would throttle the number of positive posts shown in their timelines. And then they would sit back and observe whether these users would begin reacting to other stuff with more of a negative or a positive slant. And again, as you can predict, when they throttled the amount of positive posts, when they allowed negative posts to take over the feed of these research subjects, these non-consenting research subjects, the subjects ended up expressing more negative emotions, and presumably feeling more negative emotions as well. Then they flipped it. They tried throttling the number of negative posts that filled a viewer's timeline. And then they would do the opposite, right? They would throttle the number of negative posts, allow the feeds to become dominated by positive ones, and then again, the subjects would show more of a positive expression of emotion throughout their interactions with other things on the platform. So what Facebook managed to prove using this is that emotions are contagious, especially across social media. And again, Facebook was never actually penalized for this, I believe, or at least they weren't meaningfully penalized for this. And what makes it even worse is they haven't taken account of that fact that they have now gained from non-consensual research in their algorithms today, because the same thing still happens. Their algorithms are designed to do one thing: pick up on patterns in what you seem to be interested in engaging with, and then keep flooding your feed with that same content, regardless of what that content actually is. So again, they've managed to prove that emotions, especially negative ones, are contagious, but they haven't actually taken any steps to limit the effect that has on users on their platforms today. And again, we can go back to the Israel-Palestine thing as an example of that. Arden Top, that is we do call that an unethical experiment. This was universally panned by experts and academics, by the way, as being an unethical study. And I mean, some of the people behind it they essentially just shrugged their shoulders and went, yeah, we kind of caused a bit of anxiety to the people involved, but you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And that, again, this really shows they don't care, right? Okay, oops. But yeah, in case you're interested in looking into this further, there were a few research papers that were written using the data that we now had access to as a result of Facebook's violation of academic practice. But it did yield, as much as I hate to admit it, it did yield useful data for studying how emotions spread online. So in case you're interested, you can go to this paper, and it'll tell you more about what happened as a result of this experiment. But yeah, long story short, if you feel numb when you look at horrible things happening to other people over the internet, that's not your fault. That's the fault of the platforms that you're viewing the content from.